It's summertime for PedalsAndEffects.com. We have Nick, we have Tom, and we have Juan, and we have Digitech. And so I'm not going to say he's a genius because it made him uncomfortable on the first take, but he is a genius, and he comes up with all these amazing DOD and Digitech stuff. We have a million questions for him, and Nick and I are pretty much nerds in this. So yes, of course we want to interview him because we have millions of questions because we find this fascinating, I think.
And my whole thing, which what we were talking about earlier, is just like introducing Tom to all the pedal nerds out there so they see that like Digitech is, you know, a cool dude that's not like a suit and tie little nerd like at a computer, you know, just nerding out, you know, like he's rad. And
Yes.
when I remember when we first met a couple years ago, I was like shocked, like, dude, you're running Digitech? And I never would have thought that I would meet someone that is like a part of like one of the most, you know, legendary like effect companies.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important. It's a special thing, I think.
People don't realize that there's only two people on the Digitech payroll. There's me and there's Billy. Billy is the product specialist, and he ends up being a lot of times helping on the ears end of things. When I have to do a ton of tweaking on some of this stuff, I'll get burnt, as anyone would, and then he graciously takes over and helps out in that area. Plus, he just knows gear in and out too. He's a nerd just like us.
Awesome.
But
how long have both of you been with the company?
Well, that sort of gets weird. Billy's been with Digitech for like 20 some odd years. He started way back when it was just barely started. I started working for DOD back in '96, and then I moved to Pro Audio, moved to DBX, and I moved to the software division. It's called SDIG, and then from there I came back to Digitech. And that was about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and I was artist relations, and I had very little to do with any product stuff when I first came on. But then I couldn't help myself, and I kind of started bleeding over into the product stuff. And there's been a couple of big shakeups at Digitech since then, and just kind of over time found myself where I am now, which is designing this stuff and coming up with cool pedal ideas.
And it's been a crazy couple years for you too, as far as outputs. Like, how many pedals have come out under Digitech/DOD in the last 2 years?
20. I want to say 28, something like that.
What?
It's been pretty much one a month for 2 years, and sometimes more than that. So it's been
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's been nuts. I mean, Drop, Lux, Mosaic, Bass Whammy. All the DOD stuff, Polera, Obscura, tons of pedals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much that it's hard to just rattle them off because there's so many. But I think too, like, you know, you guys, I mean, Digitech, DOD, it's always had such, you know, I think like for guys like us, I guess, and the nerds and stuff, it's like this DOD was always that one you got, and you're like, oh man, this thing sounds rad, and nobody understands how rad it is. And so it was like super cheap for the longest time. And then certain, you know, like all like at the same time, all the level bands started getting more popular. Next thing you know, oh, it's Buzz from the Melvin's favorite, or it's, you know, Soundgarden's favorite or whatever. And next thing you know, like they become collectors, and then that happens. But you guys, for the longest time, I mean, we're just putting out insanely great stuff. I mean, even those old box cable wire delays. I love those old
the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So DOD and Digitech have a long tradition of doing crazy shit. Can I swear?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
All the time.
So I mean, because we started out with John Johnson and David DeFrancesco. That's DOD, and they were modding pedals. Basically, the 250 that you had over there.
Right.
Came from John Johnson, who he was using a fuzz face, and it was breaking up too quickly, and you needed something that would work with it. He played keys.
Oh, okay.
And so he wanted to get some of that, you know, John Lord grind without the fuzz face crapping out on him, and that led to the 250. That's like 1973 or something like that. But all the stuff from back then, they were experimenting, all the crazy shit in the 90s that Jason Lamb did.
Right.
So Jason Lamb is all the crazy shit from the 90s guy.
Yep.
Okay. Because all that stuff now is so sought after, and I mean, like Gonkulator, Space Station.
Supersonic Flange was him. Buzzbox. All that nutty stuff.
All of which now, like, I mean, if you can even find any of that stuff on eBay or in a pawn shop, it's like, it's blown up.
Oh yeah. Well, Jason's a punk rocker. I mean, we came up in the same scene, and in my first band that was playing in town was called Points West, and we were like this REM-y, acoustic cheeseball thing. And he was in a band called the MAGA Heads, and they were just punk as can be. Later on in the Swamp Donkeys, and that's when I was in a different, more heavier band. But we were always playing the same scene, and so all of his ideas came just like mine, out of our experiences and trying to capture the sounds in our head, as crazy and messed up as those might be.
Which seems cool too, because I guess that was the other thing that I thought was special about like your vibe is like, it's not like, I'm sure there's a part of a big corporation like that that's market research and what people want, but it's like, oh yeah, this sounds like a cool idea, I want to just go for it and like put this out there. And that kind of seems like that's been a theme throughout like the DOD Digitech like history.
So the DOD thing, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for talking about this, but I was actually forbidden from messing with DOD. The very first when I had a boss, my very first year there, he came to me and said, I really want to resurrect DOD. And I'm like, I love DOD. I'm your guy. I've been using that for years. I've been messing with them forever. And our next level boss, both these guys are gone, by the way, heard about it and said, you will not touch DOD. We have a focus on this, and this. I don't want you spending any time on this. This is a distraction. We are concentrating on digital, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, well, okay.
Wow.
So again, strictly forbidden. So what I started doing is I went home, and I had been modding 250s and 201s and stuff on my own, and I just kept doing it on my kitchen table. And then there was a big shakeup. All the people that were above me got fired, got let go.
Let go.
Excuse my language. And we were in a meeting one day, and the guy who was now in charge of all the brands, because we have multiple brands. I don't know if people know that, but DBX, Lexicon, BSS, other brands are in our same building. Digitech
Under the Harman
umbrella.
Okay.
And so the guy who was in charge of all that stuff just said, "Hey, what are we going to do about Digitech?" And I had my prototypes that I had built on my kitchen table sitting in my desk drawer, and I'm like, "Hang on a sec, I'll be right back." And I ran back and grabbed him and showed him to him, and he's just like, "Why aren't we doing this?" And I'm like, "We will be doing this."
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about a couple pedals.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the Digitech whammy that we call an updated whammy. This is bass whammy, which is awesome. So why bass whammy? Because bass players were crying that they want their own, or?
So it started out from a petition, an online petition. I'm not sure where. I think it was TalkBass. TalkBass.com started a petition. Some guys on there, and don't get me wrong, we get petitions all the time. But this one got like 2,000 something signatures, and so that definitely got my attention. I'm actually a bass player. I started out on bass. So my memories of the old bass whammy that's the one that had the two switches, the blue one, it's the one that Justin Chancellor uses.
Right.
But I didn't want to do something like that. There's some guys that kind of missed the presets, but we had the new whammy algorithm, so I knew if we just matched the intervals that were on the earlier bass whammy with this new algorithm and the new chassis, it would be just as good or maybe even better. And I think it turned out cool. Johnny Lightfoot, who is the bassist for Air Supply, believe it or not, he helped me out on picking some of the intervals. He came back with the 10th that's on there.
Right.
And when he first told me about it, I'm just like, 10th? Why would you want a 10th?
No,
He's like, no, dude, it'll slay, I swear. And he was right. Everyone that got one talks about the 10th, and it's a cool setting. It just gives this instant kind of jazz thing going on.
Our bass player is all about that 10th too.
Yeah.
He talks about that a lot.
So that deviates from the original one. So that's right. Why it's an update, because if one of the things that with the DOD and with a lot of stuff I'm doing, I didn't want to be tied into making a direct copy of the old stuff, because to be honest, it doesn't really interest me. Right. I want to do something cool and something new and something current, and so that's why I call them updates, not reissues. I'm trying to do something new.
Yeah, I think that, definitely with the 10th, and I believe that my bass just sounds a little bit more, to what I put in, I get out of it. You know what I mean? So like, is it headroom or whatever? I don't, I'm in
Better
layman's terms.
converters in this one than the old
Right.
one.
Okay.
Of course, it's true bypass. The old one was a true bypass.
Right.
And in fact, the preamp that was on the old one, everyone complains about that. It was not very good. But this is a lot more pristine sounding.
Yes. Awesome.
It's a great one.
Nick, you had one? A pedal? I'm saying that?
Yeah. How about that Obscura delay?
Oh.
There's my baby.
Yeah, this thing's pretty cool. There's a couple of hidden features that you need to access by holding this down and doing all sorts of cool stuff. But what makes this a different delay?
So the Polara and the Obscura are my first stabs at changing hardwire. So we've got a DL8 right here, don't we?
Yep.
So here's hardwire. Nothing wrong with hardwire pedals, by the way. Very, very cool.
Yes.
They were kind of going counter to what the guitar players were wanting. They wanted something smaller, a little more feature rich, which makes sense to me. That's the kind of stuff I'm into. This is a great pedal. But what I wanted to do was not do a total, strict reissue or anything like that, or just keep all the same features. I wanted to do something completely different. And that led to the Obscura. And I'm a huge fan of older analog delays that you can get to oscillate and to freak out, and also delay line loops and that kind of stuff. So instead of doing all of the same settings, I picked my favorite ones, which were analog, tape, lo-fi and reverse. And then I thought, okay, let's be smart about this and think about what would you want to have to be able to control when you're in those modes. And that's what came up with the degrade knob. The degrade knob does different things in different modes.
Right.
Then, of course, tone allows you to brighten it up or darken it up. And so everybody complains about delays being too, digital delays being too pristine or, cold and that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, what can I do to make it so that this digital delay, it can be clean, but it can also just be completely screwed up. Awesome. and do weird things. And that's kind of what led to this. So this is a category update to the DL8, but it's not a DL8. It's something completely different. And I essentially made this for myself, and I was basically hoping that other guitar players would dig it, and they have been. So, but that's not to say I didn't have help. Billy helped me a lot on this, tweaking on the settings. With digital stuff, people think you have a guy who bangs out some code and then sticks it in there and it's done. Exactly. But sometimes it actually takes longer to do digital stuff than it does to do analog stuff, because you have so much control. Right. You end up tweaking like crazy. Mm-hmm. And we did that a lot. We had some late nights where even stuff as simple as when you have it oscillating and it reaches a minimum level of repeat and it just kind of stays there. That took us hours and hours and hours and hours to get it right, because it would be too loud to go into runaway and freak out. It'd be too quiet and disappear. So it took some time.
So from conception to having a box with art where you can plug it in and play it, what is like the time frame?
For this one, it was about 4.5 months. So pretty quick. The reason for that is because this is still the same board. So PCB board that was in the DL8 just had to be respun, so it has all the same components. What took the most time was getting the algorithms right.
Cool.
And that's another thing too to keep in mind is with the new Digitech pedals I'm doing, I am basically viewing all of our history of algorithms to be fair game. On one of these modes on here, I went all the way back to the 2101. So we have an archive of a whole bunch of digital algorithms, and some are my favorites and some aren't my favorites, and so I'm trying to go through and it's like the greatest hits. I'm going through and saying this is cool, I want to tweak it. This is cool, I want to keep it. This is not so great, so we'll chuck it. That kind of thing.
Awesome, man. That pedal does roll. Nick's been going, dude, this thing so awesome. So, and then let's cut in. Of course, everybody knows this. This one's easy to get through because I've already done a ton of reviews on it.
This is the one you want to talk about.
Yes. Okay, so this is the OG DOD meat box, and this is the updated meat box. guys started crying to me because this has a dry out and
Did you know
a wet out, and yes, this is the
It has the same thing.
yes, the same thing. It's the stereo out plug, so you just get a Y, and then you can do the same thing. So don't cry. This is true bypass. This isn't. And I will say this one. I'm going to say it, and I've said it in the review, but this is better because it does what this does, and it does more. So this thing really. I mean, like I always say, yeah, if you want to blow PAs up, well, if you want to blow up PAs and anything else that puts out sound, this thing can do it.
Well, and the price and
Yes.
the manufacturing,
the size
the box,
of it.
the switch isn't going to go out.
Yeah, because all of us know that this is the pin one. Like DOD did that, and
The old
so,
school ones.
Yeah, you know, when you had to have those, you just be like, oh man, what? And then you get them modded and whatever. So, but I will say this just kills. And so I had my whole story that I said on the first review I did of it, but the whole history of it. But how difficult was it to just get this put into effect?
It actually wasn't that big of a deal. So I got to say something first, though. The listeners at home, viewers at home,
Yeah.
this exists because of this guy right here. He ran into me at NAMM 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and he was asking about DoD stuff, and I kind of let him in. I said, "Here's my list of things I want to do," and the meat box was like 45 on my list, and he's like, "No, bro, it's gotta go up higher than that. It's got to be the next one you do." And so I bumped up the list, and here we are.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't that hard. It was I hooked up with a contract engineer that he's been great. Because I'm a hack engineer, just so you guys know. Even though I did the prototypes, the 250 and 201, I don't want you to think that I'm like a real engineer. I'm not. So I just basically told him what I wanted to accomplish. I wanted it to be TRS. You just basically take the circuit and spin it to fit in that board or in that chassis, and he did it.
The originals came with little fly stickers that you're
Yep.
supposed to put on, and the attention to detail was so cool that
Yes,
there is a fly on
Yes,
top.
yes.
We talked about including the fly stickers. I'm like, no, man, let's just put it right on the pedal. That's-
Yeah.
Well, I just want you to know, like, so we have a little award. Well, I do. I have a little award that I give because it's not really something that's pedal effects. It's me as a bass player, and it's my flag. All my dudes who like are into what I do know that I put them on anything that I think is indispensable, and that got it. Like I think that's record time probably too. But like I have,
That's
like
awesome.
if you guys look at my vibrato pedal, it has a Mexican flag on it. I
Nice.
got my OC2s that have it because they're indispensable. Of course, my Boss CS2 does, but this one got it because it's indispensable, and I'm actually going to be using it. Saturday, I'm doing this festival here in LA, the Low End Theory Festival, and we're throwing my acoustic bass into this sucker and
So you're gonna suck
lighting
it out
up
of
the
the
PA.
room.
We're gonna light up that PA.
Also,
for sure.
what is the price point on the new meat boxes?
$149.
That's crazy. And
Awesome.
so what do those old ones go for?
Well, when Jonathan Hitchke first started buying them, he said they were like 40 to 60 bucks, and then I started buying them, and they were like 40, 60, 80 bucks, and then I broke one or whatever, I went to go buy it, and they were like 200 bucks, and I bought one. One of these I bought was for 200, and then I saw them go as high as 350, 400, and so now the price. I saw it as soon as I threw a photo up saying that they were releasing this. I saw some dude post it that day on eBay, and he was on Talkbase going, I got to get rid of mine. Posting it on eBay right now because he had to unload it. And there's still, like, as much as I blow it up, there's still guys that are going, they're reissuing it? So, yes, the meat box is being reissued. This is it. And there's less than 3,000, I hear.
That's true. We couldn't find, well, of the original chip, there's less than 3,000. There's another chip out there that'll do the same thing, and if the demand is high enough, we'll change the circuit to accommodate the new chip. But if you want the one that's got the OG chip in there, you got to get the.
So there will be
first one.
3,000 that exist
Yep.
under that run.
Right.
Yep.
And here's the last thing I was going to ask you because it popped in my head as soon as you mentioned it. So you guys, Harman, DBX.
Yes.
DBX is where all this comes from, the DBX boombox. So they still make the 120, right? Subharmonic
No, they
synthesizer.
stopped for a lot of years. It's coming back. They started doing the 500 series rack stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's the I think it's called Euro rack. The 120 is going to be part of that too. So you can get one and stick it in your lunchbox.
I might. So Tom, we do want to thank you for spreading the wealth of knowledge to us, and I think too, like, we would love to know if you can give us any kind of idea of what's on the block coming up.
So
the exclusive, the Pedals and Effects exclusive.
I deserve it, dude. I deserve.
So I can't talk about what I'm currently working on or what's coming in the future. What I can tell you is that stuff like the Polara and Obscura is going to continue. So the hardwire, it's not an official hardwire replacement. It is because I'm making new stuff, but hardwire pedals are going to be replaced. I've got stuff in the works right now that is taking care of some of the more the bread and butter basics. DOD stuff. I'm working on another signature designer. Speaking of which, this is the signature designer with Black Arts Toneworks, the Bone Shaker. I'm working on another one right now. I can't tell you who it is, but you'll be able to find out pretty quick. But the response to this guy right here was good enough that I was able to do another one.
Yes.
There was a lot of NAMM chatter about that, if I recall.
Yeah, it's and guitar players have been responding to it, and this is kind of a departure for DOD. So if anybody's been following what I've been doing with the DOD stuff, it's older circuits updated, but it still retains the same look.
Here, grab a couple.
Yeah.
Just show. We've done videos on all these and see them, but
yeah. So what I did with the DOD stuff is I did very minimal changes. I changed the dimensions of the box just a little bit so I could fit the knobs on there, give it a little more space on top. But it's the original circuits. It's true bypass now instead of being a non-true bypass. But I did very little to them. And you can see the look is very similar, except for, of course, the fun sparkly paint. Now, I don't want to get stuck in just doing a bunch of updates. I could, don't get me wrong. I mean, we have circuits going back 40 years. I want to do some new stuff, and that's what this is part of. And so this is a partnership with Mark from Black Arts Toneworks. A really good dude, by the way. He and I hit it off immediately. A lot in common. But he's a fuzz guy. He makes a lot of really cool fuzzes. And I started talking to him about really not him doing a partnership with it, just talking about pedals and all that kind of stuff. And it turns out that he's a fan of the 250. And so when we started talking about doing some sort of collaboration, I was expecting him to do another fuzz. And he's like, no, this you guys have got a tradition. I'm going to do a distortion. And so he did a distortion, 3-band semi-parametric EQ. I'm going to throw a couple little hints out there on this. So there's a cool thing about this. The EQ section is between two gain stages. So you can actually drive a single gain stage. If you crank up the level and find your frequency, it'll distort on that particular frequency. And then your gain knob here actually turns into a fine tune. So people will notice that there's not a whole lot of range in this first part. That is if you're using it normally. If you're driving an EQ stage, then all of a sudden this area becomes more active. So and there's also the depth, which changes the amount of low frequencies that enter into the circuit, so you can retain or cut your low end. If you're using a regular 440 tuning, it's not going to do that much. But if you're doing drop tune stuff, 6-string basses or 9-string guitars, like a lot of guys are using now.
You're doing like a Korn cover band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And your bottom string is, or like Torch, they turn down that low string to nothing.
Right.
Then this will allow you to get a lot of those lows going through the circuit. Right. Awesome. So that's the Bone Shaker.
Awesome. Yes. So we appreciate it, and we know that you got to save all that secret info for Premier Guitar or somebody else, but we are so grateful that you came through Pedals and Effects, and I'll text Jason over at Premier Guitar. What's Tom up to? Pedals Effects didn't get that insight, but anyway, thank you for being on.
The exclusive is that there's some badass things in store for Digitech.
Yes, for sure.
That's right. I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
I'm continuing. So
awesome. Cool. Thank you. PedalsAndEffects.com.